UFC 319, du Plessis versus Chimaev just took place, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my reaction and breakdown to every single fight on the card, and my overall event recap as well, because this was, bar a few fights where there wasn't really any entertainment value whatsoever, and that's okay to notice, bar a few, this was a really good event. A really, really solid event with a ton of really, really big moments that we're going to go through in today's video. We're going to start with the early prelim opener of Alibi Idiris versus Joseph Morales. The tough finale. Joseph Morales goes out there, gets a triangle submission over Alibi Idiris. Great fight. Both guys were kind of going at it. It was very competitive in round one, but Joseph Morales was actually doing a bit better in the grappling than I thought he was going to do. I think he nearly had a guillotine at one point as well. I thought Alibi Idiris would do better in the grappling against a guy like Morales because I thought Morales looked bad on the Ultimate Fighter. But he looked good in this one, and he pushed for finishes. And when Alibi Idiris reversed position on him, he got that triangle in no time and latched that shit up. So really good submission ability from Joseph Morales. Catches the triangle sub in round two. And he's back in the UFC. A wholesome story for Joseph Morales. We move on. Up the card. Karine Silva versus Dione Barboza. This was a boring fight where not a lot really happened. And because they're women, we're allowed to say that. And their name doesn't end in V. And they're not from the Caucasus. And it wasn't just grappling. And so we're, you know, just to put it out there, we're allowed to say this one's boring. Boring fight. Not really much of anything happened. No real knockdowns or huge moments. I thought Dione Barboza maybe should have won the first and third round upon rewatching. I'm not too fussed about it, though. It really wasn't much of an eventful fight whatsoever, and I'm allowed to say that because one of them's not Chimaev. So I'm allowed to say that, as I've said it about many women's MMA fights before and many boring fights before. Karine Silva won, but did she really? It looked like Dione Barboza was getting the better of her in some of the grappling moments. And even though Karine Silva did have some submission attempts and did land some good shots, I don't think it was as much of a robbery as people were making it out to be because I wasn't really paying too much attention. But maybe you should have gone to Barboza. We move on. Edson Barboza versus Drakkar Klose. Did they rob two Barbozas back to back? Is that what happened here on the prelims of this card? Because don't let them get away with the main event chaos of the response to the main event and then say, oh, don't pay any attention to the rest of this card, because there were some interesting decisions early on. Drakkar Klose versus Edson Barboza. Edson straight up outlanded him in rounds 1 and 3, and I thought he should have won the fight. Round 2, Drakkar Klose wins the round. I think he nearly finished. Barboza had him in a little bit of trouble in round 2 at a certain point. Round 3, I think he mixed it in on him as well and landed some good punches, but I felt like Edson Barboza did a little bit more in rounds 1 and 3. Maybe round 1, you know, Drakkar Klose had some moments. And it was close. They were close fights, but I feel like they were giving the Barbozas a hard time on the prelims. They had to extra make sure to win their one because, yeah, they had it unanimously for Drakkar Klose. It was a close fight. He did try and score some takedowns. Both guys had moments where they ended up against the cage and trying to push into each other and knee each other to the body. I thought Barboza was doing the better clinch work there. I did think he was kneeing the body a lot better, so. But Drakkar Klose did stay busy in the clinch as well and stayed busy with some tappy ground and pounds. So it's a close one. Either way, I don't mind it going to Drakkar Klose though, really. I only skimmed through it anyway, and I picked up like towards the end of round 2. Onwards. I did think that Barboza could have won the third, though. We move on. Up the card to another fight, which was Alexander Hernandez versus Chase Hooper. This one was crazy, but he didn't get a performance bonus because Alexander Hernandez put him away in the first round. Really nasty, devastating finish in the first round. No performance bonus. That was reserved for Chimaev. Unfortunately for Alexander Hernandez, he didn't get a performance bonus for this one. And for Joseph Morales, you know, massive underdog, goes in there against Idiris, gets a guillotine upset win. Nothing compared to the 50k that Chimaev needed for his win. By God, I was up on my feet the whole time for that one. But Hernandez scored a KO win over Chase Hooper. And I want to say this. Fuck whatever you picked in the fight that everyone was split and torn on in the main event. Everybody called me a retard for picking Alexander Hernandez. I don't know what Hooper did to convince you of anything, but the guy doesn't have legit wins, okay? And he's not a good striker. So he's going to get dealt with by Hernandez. And Alexander Hernandez dealt with him. It took a little bit longer than I would have thought it should have. I do disagree with the stoppage a little bit. I know Chase Hooper didn't complain about the stoppage, but come on, man. End of the round, you let that go a second or two. He barely got crumpled and then went to go to his back. I just know in other fights, he probably survives till the next round and we get a whole new round of Hernandez versus Hooper. So, did it look like Hernandez was going to win eventually anyway? Yes, because Hooper just can't fucking strike against someone that moves. If you're Borshev and you're flat on your feet moving forward against him, worried about a takedown, you can be caught by Hooper maybe in a fluke moment. If you're, Nick Fior, who's flat-footed and terrible, and maybe you can be beaten up by Chase Hooper, but Alexander Hernandez moves very well. He's very athletic. He was landing the right hand at will in the first round on Chase Hooper, and Hooper just kept slowly meandering towards him and failing takedowns from a mile away. So really wasn't good from Chase Hooper, that performance, and Alexander Hernandez shut that shit down. Hooper threw a lot of strikes in round one, barely landed anything. Was staying busy though and was landing some, but nothing clean like Hernandez was landing. So Alexander Hernandez puts him away. No performance bonus though. A KO is too much. You got to wet blanket him for 5 rounds to get that. We move on. Lupita Godinez versus Jessica Andrade. I went with Jessica Andrade to win. She didn't win, as you guys may be aware. She did beat the piss out of Lupita Godinez in round 3. My take on this fight was that Jessica Andrade would win the second and third round and eventually start to get the better of Lupita Godinez, because Godinez is good and sharp, but when she does get a bit scrappy, she's very hittable. But she was very, very good in round 1. Lupita Godinez, she didn't really need her takedowns, but she did get them at the start of round 2, or one of them, the only one that she got in round 2. But Jessica Andrade looked good in the third round, beating the piss out of Lupita Godinez. Godinez must have barely survived that round, really, in terms of damage, because, Andrade did more damage to Lupita Godinez within a 30-second period than Chimaev did to Dricus for 5 straight fucking rounds. It was a crazy pace in the third round. There were people yapping in chat about a boring fight all the way through the first and second round, and I was actually watching no, this is actually kind of fun. Lupita Godinez is sharp, and she's looking good, and in round 2, they started to get a bit scrappy, and in round 3, they started to tear up, so yeah. Some chat at the start were calling this boring because we're allowed to, because their name don't end in a V and they're not Chimaev and they don't have that fan base to pander to and pretend to be a hardcore for. But this was actually a really fun fight. So I disagree with the narrative that this was boring early. I think it was fun all the way through. Lupita looked good and she looked improved. She looked a lot more improved technique-wise. Still the same problems though as the fight goes on. So we'll see if she can adjust her cardio like that. We move on. Michal Oleksiejczuk versus Gerald Meerschaert. Michal Oleksiejczuk. I know it's Gerald Meerschaert, and this was expected to happen. This was such a clean performance from Michal Oleksiejczuk. The shots that put down Meerschaert at the end. He rocked him beforehand. He was walking him down. He hurt him before. He stuffed a couple of wide away takedowns that were so far away from him that he could easily stuff them. So yeah, there was all of that. He's stuffing the takedowns. Meerschaert's looking a bit sloppy. And then Michal just starts putting hands on him, landing good 2s down the pipe, or left hands down the pipe. I think he was southpaw. Landing good left hands down the pipe. And then the finishing sequence that he actually caught Gerald Meerschaert with was so nasty, so clean. Right hook, left hand, right hook. It was like a 3 version of McGregor's 4 that he hit Eddie Alvarez with. But, fair enough, he didn't land 4. That was cleaner than McGregor's. I know it's not Eddie Alvarez and it's Gerald fucking Meerschaert. Look back at Michal Oleksiejczuk's finishing sequence. Dude, the way he put those 3 shots together, no telegraph, placed them perfectly, didn't even put too much effort into them either. Those were perfect combination punches from Michal Oleksiejczuk, and he got a devastating finish from it in round 1. Not enough for a performance bonus. That's now going to go to wet blankets that don't land a significant strike per minute in a 25-minute fight, but Michal Oleksiejczuk doesn't have a horde of NPC retard fans to milk stuff out of. So there's no point giving him a performance bonus, even though it was a nasty, nasty KO win. Probably the best win of his career in terms of anything, because, you know, Reina Dorita struggled with Meerschaert. You know, he's not an easy guy to put away, but he is if you're a powerful striker, it does seem. We move on up the card to another fight, which was Baisangur Susurkaev versus Eric Nolan. Of course, we had Eric Nolan taking this fight up a weight class on short notice, and let me tell you, until he went to hold his leg in round 2, therefore giving up the back, he was in that fucking fight, and he was landing a lot on Baisangur Susurkaev. So I think Susurkaev this whole fight week has had this situation where, first of all, fun fight between the two of them. Susurkaev had this situational fight week where maybe a little bit of imposter syndrome, where he gets on the Contender Series, he gets in, now he's at the presser 4 days later. He must have felt like it was like this surreal dream scenario for him, where now all of a sudden he's this international superstar. So much so that in the post-fight speech, he's expecting the crowd to already know his chance. That's how much this guy thought, I'm actually an international superstar. The UFC putting him at that press conference went straight to his head, and was probably why he got rocked in round 1 as well, because in round 1, he was going out there like, this is where I have my highlight. This is where I completely school my opponent. And I was watching him and I was like, dude, you're looking shit. Lock in. I said that in round 1. Like, this guy needs to lock in before he gets finished, because Eric Nolan was just swinging and landing on him. Not setting it up. Sometimes he would, don't get me wrong. But sometimes he would just wing a shot. And Susurkaev's right there. High and tight guard, but not covering his whole head. So a lot of shots are getting through and around the guard. And eventually at the end of round 1, after Susurkaev had some moments in the grappling here and there, and in the clinch as well up against the cage, and, you know, even landing that teep to the body is a very nasty teep to the body. After a few of those moments where maybe Susurkaev was slightly ahead in the round, Nolan cracks him on the temple with a right hook and wobbles him really badly. Really badly wobbles him in round 1. In fact, Susurkaev was arguably saved by the bell, because he was really badly jelly-legged and chicken dancing at the end of that round, and Nolan was pouring it on. Of course, the bell sounds, Susurkaev recovers. Round 2, he low kicks Nolan twice. On the second one, I swear I thought Nolan was pulling a Derek Lewis. So I said on Twitter, why would Nolan fake that leg hurting him? That cost him giving up his back. But apparently he was actually just that hurt to the leg, but he still had the grit to snap out of it and throw. Because when he first went to hold his leg, he immediately snapped out of it to wing an overhand at Susurkaev as he rushed in. So I thought, oh, he's faked being hurt and then swung the overhand. But no, he was actually really badly hurt to the leg, which explains why he wasn't as good on the ground afterwards. And eventually Susurkaev locks up the rear naked choke on Nolan. And you know what? For Nolan, 4 days notice, upper weight class. Welcome to the UFC, brother. You put on a scrap. You tried to go for it. You went for blood and glory. What more can they ask for a short notice step in? Eric Nolan gave it a good go, so definitely give him another opportunity in the UFC. We move on. Well, no, let's recap the prelims overall, because I did pretty good on the prelims. I took Alibi to win. He lost. I took Karine Silva to win. She got it. I took Drakkar Klose to win. He got it. I took Hernandez to win as an underdog. He got it. I took Andrade to win. She lost. Michal Oleksiejczuk to win. He got it. Susurkaev to win. I said second round. I said first round Michal. I said first round Hernandez. I had a couple good picks here early on the card. I only got 2 wrong on the prelims, which is pretty good for the prelims, because there was a lot of upsets. We move on to the main card. Tim Elliott versus Kai Asakura. Here's an upset I never saw coming. And I'll be honest with you, this fight kind of proves that this sport is not evolving the way you think it is. And I say that because, and I'm not going to mention names like I always do, but of course we've been having this discussion recently in the MMA YouTube community. I'm going to fart. We've been having this discussion recently in the MMA community where we're talking about how much do the current champs have to do to overtake the former champs. You know, like the older champs that fought way easier competition. Tim Elliott was Demetrius Johnson's title defense in 2016. And he clearly beat Tim Elliott. He nearly got caught in a dash choke at one point, but he clearly beat Tim Elliott. Kai Asakura, even in round 1, brother, you should be hitting him more than that. Look at what he's doing in front of you. He has no idea what he's doing. And I know you can say goofy and it's a goofy, awkward style. Sometimes goofy and awkward is a disguise for I'm secretly shit, don't notice. I really think. And that's what I saw with Elliott. So even though he was landing more shots in round 1, I went with Asakura winning the first round because he looked sharp. He was landing with power. He cracked Elliott a few times with some really good shots. So I thought, yeah, round 1's got to be Kai Asakura, but he got taken down, which was a worrying sign. Round 2. Same thing. What the fuck is Tim Elliott doing? How is this number 11 in the world? This is the worst thing I've ever seen. What's going on? Asakura's landed some big shots. He's going to the body a few times. Then Asakura gets taken down again and stuffs his head in a guillotine trying to get back up and just gets guillotined in round 2. Nasty guillotine from Mount from Tim Elliott. Asakura did try and fight out of it with all that he had. He had 21 seconds left. It was a very tight choke. I felt like he should have kept going. You know, this was real ridicule or superstardom for Asakura. He had a ton of hype coming into this. You know, this was his second chance in the UFC against someone who was perceived as a bit of a layup for him. I perceived it that way. Tim Elliott, you know, but he's winning, dude. Tim Elliott's winning and he's doing his thing and he's back at 39 years of age after a lot of time off. Nearly 2 years off. He hasn't fought since December of 2023. And he's just come back and choked out Kai Asakura. And what I want to mention is that was DJ's title defense from 2016, defeating Asakura's title defense that makes him so much better than DJ. I know Pantoja has other wins. Sorry, Pantoja's title defense that makes him so much better than DJ. I know Pantoja has other title defenses. But what I'm saying is, not all of these guys are like the next level of MMA fighter, okay? And the fact that Tim Elliott is still top 10 does speak a bit to DJ's legacy, you know? And the fact that Benavidez knocked out Perez and beat Cejudo after the DJ fight, it does speak to DJ's legacy a bit, so hold your horses trying to completely say this guy only needs 3 title defenses. I don't care if the previous guy got 10. Everybody hold your fucking horses about that. Tim Elliott just fucking beat Asakura. He's on a 2-fight win streak in 2025. We move on to another fight up the card, which was Michael Venom Page versus Jared Cannonier. I'm on mixed opinions about this, man. Again, what did I tell you? I said MVP decision, right? And he would lose the 3rd round. And he did. But what did I tell you about MVP as my example of a sentence to describe MVP? Don't blink, you won't miss anything. That is genuinely the MVP fights. I'm watching MVP's fights and I'm thinking, I can't fucking look away. What if he flatline KOs him out of nowhere? I can't look away from this. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen. And then once you get to a certain part into the fight, you think, he's just throwing 1-2s once a minute and then doing a bunch of goofy Jim Carrey shit. Like, oh, there's MVP's 1-2 and now he's back to this. You know? Like, it does get to that. Like, once you watch enough of MVP's fights, listen, he was landing some really nasty spinning elbows on Kevin Holland, but that does need to be mentioned. He just makes you scared to close distance on him. Never throws really anything to catch you closing the distance. He used to throw a lot more jump knees than he does now, but I guess he doesn't want to give up position or give him a body lock or end up on his back, because in round 3, when he did end up on his back, he couldn't fucking move with Cannonier on top of him. Cannonier's a big dude to have on top of you, and Cannonier was trying to harm him but wasn't doing enough. Like, come on, man. Round 3 here, you've got to try and push for a finish in that situation. You know you're down. You know you're down on the scorecards 2-0. How can you think you're possibly up to have your hand up thinking, I wonder if I got it when the decision's being announced? MVP clearly won the fight, rounds 1 and 2. He's so like, no one, I really believe no one in the UFC will be able to beat MVP in a pure striking match. Because he just, like, he will make 5 exchanges a round and he'll win the 5 exchanges a round. It's not like, oh, MVP's going to box this guy up in the pocket, dude. Watch it, this guy keeps his hands down. You don't want to get chinned by MVP. There's no, like, striking weakness that you can stare at in an opponent. Of course, to, like, an extreme, don't extremify this point to prove me wrong, but within reason, it's not like you look at an opponent and think, oh, that striking is going to do this way, or this striking is going to work this way against MVP. You're going to be standing outside of range while he does silly dance moves and then getting hit by a 1-2 once every 60 seconds. That will happen to you, and it doesn't matter really who you are in the striking. The only person I would like him, like in a stand-up fight against him, would be someone who has like a really mean, powerful counter, like maybe a Nasty Namavov at middleweight, but I don't see any of these pure strikers really giving any problems to MVP. Like, he's really a tricky guy to figure out, and although you're not going to get knocked out or highlight reeled, you're going to get humiliated. And he's going to be dancing in front of you while you land 2 significant strikes in a round, which for Cannonier is embarrassing, but for Chimaev is dominance. But it's different. Cannonier, round 2 he started doing better, but he kept getting dropped. Round 1 he got dropped off balance. No knockdowns were scored for MVP because MVP fucking pushes people over after he hits them, which is actually insane. Awareness in a fight, by the way. Insane awareness in a fight. But MVP pushes them over. So he'll throw a 1-2, and then while his hands are out there, he'll just go, and just push him. And then they'll go stumbling. So this is why there's no knockdown scored, is because they weren't concussed by it, but he was like sending Cannonier stumbling over. Even in round 1, he hit like a nasty little throw on Cannonier. And Cannonier just did not grapple until the end of round 2. And I said that going into this. People were saying Cannonier's going to get straight on him and shoot a double leg. And I'm telling you, dude, he will only go to that if he is desperate to. If it's his last resort, that's what he's going to do. He's going to try and strike with MVP for a large part of this fight. And if he does, he's not going to do well. And sure enough, Cannonier doesn't adjust until late in the fight. Way too late for anything to work. You shouldn't pick fighters on what you think they should do. You know? Just pick what you know they're going to do. Typically works a lot of the time. Especially when you're facing a guy like Michael Venom Page where you need to grapple. If I ain't seen you do that to anyone else, I ain't picking you to do it to MVP just because it's MVP. You know? So MVP did his thing, dropped Cannonier in round 2 as well with a nasty 2-piece combo and then pushed him again-ish, which is why they're not scoring it as knockdowns. But other than that, though, I will say this. Round 1, he landed 11 strikes, a couple tappy low kicks I think he landed, and I think he landed about 5 right hands. The dancing is fun, yeah? But it's 5 right hands. You know? It's very impressive. And I can appreciate the skill and the ability that it requires to do that. But every 30 seconds can we get to the dancing? Not a minute long of goofy dance moves and then 1 strike. And then a minute long of goofy dance moves and then a 1-2. And then a minute long of goofy dance moves, maybe with a leg kick or a stomp chucked in. And then a 1-2. It does get to the point where it's all right, let's be a bit better. Because past the 7-minute mark of this fight, MVP did nothing. MVP did nothing, but he didn't need to. He'd already won. And I'm assuming he was aware of that. Aware that he was up, especially when he knocked Cannonier down. They're not calling it knockdowns, but he did. Especially when he put Cannonier on his ass, let's just say, if they want to use the technical term. When he put Cannonier on his ass in round 2, he was like, I got it. So after that, he kind of just didn't do anything. At the end of round 2, he was getting held up against a cage. Cannonier was landing a couple of shots on him towards the end of round 2. Nothing big, though. Nothing to spin his head around. You know, just a couple jabs that kind of touched him and made him go, oh, you got me with that one. Dude, MVP is so... Dude, I'd fucking rage so hard, you know. I'd straight up get out the cage if someone was doing that to me. If I started a fight and for 5 minutes he's pulling that shit and I can't even step in or he's moving, I'd genuinely leave the UFC. I would be rage baited so hard. And I think Cannonier did get rage baited because he is a bit of an unk, you know? I was saying that Jared Cannonier reminds me of that old OG unk still playing basketball in his sweatpants, just sweating everywhere at the gym and getting rage baited by some teenagers playing horse on the other side of the court because he's working on his shot. Because trust me, he could have made the NBA one day. I don't know. I just feel like Cannonier was kind of getting a bit frustrated, and then they kind of composed him in round 2 on the corner and said, just fucking grapple and get this guy down. And he did. But hey, few and far between. He did try a lot though, so MVP's takedown defense isn't a massive glaring hole. But hey, it's fucking Cannonier. You know, that's not his plan A. So being taken down at all is probably not a good look if you're going to be going up against some of these other grapplers. But he's not. He's calling out Carlos Prates now. So I think MVP might just want to be like shape-shifting a career of just striking matches, which might be smart. Carlos Prates versus Jeff Neal. This one, there's a reason why every fan was cheering after this one, and every crowd in the member of crowd in the arena was up on their feet. Respect to the both of them, man. Carlos Prates is so cool. I hate that Ian Gary beat him. I really don't like that Ian Gary beat him because I have to admit Ian Gary must be something fucking special. Dude, Ian Gary beat MVP. And I do think he beat MVP. Sure, he didn't win round 2. And he didn't, like, beat the fuck out of MVP on the ground, bar a couple total strikes. I guess he should have had him in, like, a crucifix. But he did have his back and nearly choke him out. But that made Ian Gary boring. So never mind, dude. Not everyone gets away with it. But yeah, but either way, let's just enjoy this. Jeff Neal, Carlos Prates. What a fucking fight. I picked Carlos Prates by KO. For reference, I also picked MVP by decision and Asakura, but he lost. But I took Carlos Prates by KO in round 1. Very impressed. Very impressed. He did exactly what I would do controlling him. The way he was moving, the perfect movement against Jeff Neal. And what it makes me think is he was so prepared for Jeff Neal. And then Ian Gary, a long-rangey, don't fucking hurt me, on the outside, fucking merchant fighter, was such a switch-up of styles for him that he just couldn't really lock in and get a hold of what Ian Gary was doing. So it might have been more of an advantage for Ian Gary to take that fight on short notice than it was for Carlos Prates to switch up an opponent. Because for this fight, you can see, dude, they've been honing a game plan for Jeff Neal. The way they were finding outside foot position and then corralling back around and like scooting around Jeff Neal after he sort of blitzed forward. Perfect. Everything Shavkat should have done better, Prates did in this fight on the feet. And now Shavkat got caught up a lot of times in the over-unders. And I think Jeff Neal did try and take down Prates, to which Prates defended very well, by the way. But this is what Shavkat should have been doing on the feet if he really had it in him. Now, Shavkat's more well-rounded than Prates, we get it. But, you know what I'm saying? Shavkat would like find outside foot position and then blast straight punches over the lead hand of Jeff Neal and crack him. Whereas Prates was like stepping around and looping hooks at the same time. And he was finding the outside foot position so much better. Basically, Jeff Neal, if you don't know, forwards, backwards. He barely does any of the side-to-side movement. And he ends up following people around quite a bit. It's a great style and it works against a lot of opponents. But even Neil Magny was kind of piecing him up on the back foot, moving side to side. And that's what Prates did. Pieced up Jeff Neal. Low kicks were money. In this fight from Carlos Prates. The right hands were money as well. He was so loose. Dude, once 2 minutes came around, or 2.5 minutes of the first round, I thought he's fine. He's going to win this fight because he was so flowy. And the way he was moving out there, dude, and trying to look for the KO and the highlight reel, it was just, that's what this sport's all about, man. Watching him enter that flow state in round 1. Wicked stuff. And he was once I saw him grabbing at the hands of Jeff Neal when Neal wasn't doing anything, I was like, oh, you're getting set up for some nasty shit here. Bang! Spinning elbow right on the side of the temple of Jeff Neal. Sliced him open at the same time. Jeff Neal's done. He got wobbled before that as well. Prates landed some big shots on him and Neal felt them but was still cracking him back, and Prates had to be a little bit careful in the way that he approached the finish. But yeah, Jeff Neal, dude, straight forward, head on the center line. Oh, here he comes, straight forward, head on the center line, bang, spinning elbow right on the chin, right on the temple, sorry. Carlos Prates with a nasty finish, 50k for him, well earned, nasty finish. We move on. Lerone Murphy versus Aaron Pico. I went with Lerone Murphy to win this fight. And I went with Lerone Murphy to win this fight for many reasons. One, I think he's a way better mixed martial artist than Aaron Pico. And two, I thought, dude, I've seen Aaron Pico do well when he's dominating, but between those moments, he is shit in some of the things that he does. And he's very chinny. I've been saying all week, people have been talking to me about Aaron Pico's highlight reels. I say there's another collection of highlight reels, you know. And they're the ones where he's been KO'd. Over and over again. Every time. And I swear, you know what? I should have been more happy for this win. But I was so shocked by the fucking spinning elbow KO, by the way. That's what we got to talk about first. The spinning elbow KO, fucking nasty. Nasty spinning elbow KO. I should have been more happy over this, though, because the MMA hardcores have been like, dude, Pico's the next coming of God. Like, they genuinely think he's God. Like, the way they were describing Aaron fucking Pico. And I was thinking, dude, Lerone Murphy is 8-0 in the UFC. What the fuck has Pico done in the sport? Like, straight up, what has Pico done? Couple highlight reels on the regional scene, bud? Wow. And then what happens to Pico once he gets a couple highlight reels on the regional scene? Once Pico gets a few highlight reels on the regional scene, they put him against a top contender or a name that's good, and he gets KO'd every time. You can go through Aaron Pico's career, and you will see this every time. Amazing win by Lerone Murphy, by the way. Amazing spinning elbow. We're going to talk about how it started, because I was actually panicking for my pick of Murphy to start because I thought he got dropped, but he didn't. But yeah, if you look at Aaron Pico's career, I mean, he goes up, beats a couple contenders, and he starts getting some momentum. Loses his debut by guillotine, by the way. Gets a couple of KOs, beats some good fighters, and then they give him Henry Corrales. He gets flatline KO'd. Then they give him Adam Borics. Like, oh, give him another good guy. He gets flatline KO'd with a jump near. Nasty. Then he fights some more good fighters, fucks it up against Jeremy Kennedy. Oh well, reset yourself, build yourself back up. Lerone Murphy. Flatline KO'd. It's like a routine in Pico's career, and maybe they were thinking, this is the time it'll be different, but I will say this. Aaron Pico did look good in the first round. You have to agree. He looked good. But how long can you look good for, man? When you're in an experienced fight, when you're in there with an experienced fighter like Lerone Murphy, and this is where the benefit of going to decision a lot on the come-up comes from. When you're in there and it's, that's not put him away. I'm still in a fight with him. All right, I've got to figure something else out. Lerone Murphy's just a good fighter all around. It's not like you have to watch out for a sudden moment, even though that is what happened here. Like, Pico was always going to be running into some shit on Murphy coming in. I even said it in the fight. When Pico rushed forward, I said, I don't like the way he's coming forward. He's going to get cracked by a counter shot. And that's what happened. Lerone Murphy caught him. He saw it as well. Round one starts. Pico comes out there like a fucking crazy man. Starts swarming Lerone Murphy. Lands a hook on him that kind of looks like it drops Murphy, but not really. I went crazy for it because I was between tabs. But Murphy got hit and then threw a shot at the same time. And the momentum of his punch kind of like made him lose his balance for a second, and he popped right back up. But then Pico starts ripping body shots on Murphy, and I'm thinking, fucking hell, dude, these body shots. Murphy might shit his pants in a second, because these are nasty fucking body shots from Aaron Pico. He tries a couple of takedowns. Murphy gets right back up. American wrestling. Dog shit. I mean, wrist control. Ain't that Caucus wrestling? We'll get to the main event. But Lerone Murphy shuts it down. Knocks him out. It hurts because we were having an ethnicity argument, and I said Lerone Murphy wasn't English, even though he's a British citizen. So now I can't ever be happy for him, I guess. I have to keep up this facade. But it is good, and it's good that he got the win. And I've been paying attention to Lerone Murphy's career for a long time, and I thought he was being massively counted out here as a big underdog. So I put full value in a Lerone Murphy pick, and it paid off big time. Don't listen to these guys that are in the know, dude, praising Aaron Pico as some god. The guy was 13-4. Let's just get it. The way people were talking about Aaron Pico, the Michael Jordan of the MMA world, what has he ever done? Even Pico was saying, dude, Volk's never fought a wrestler like me. He fought fucking Makhachev twice. What? You're wrestling, the wrestling that kept Murphy down for 2 seconds. What we doing, man? Shut up. Sorry, that was such a... I hate that. It almost discredits Murphy. I'm glad that he got the win because he's going to be a star now. But it discredits Murphy to even have this. This is the guy that proves if Murphy's worthy. This is no one. This is someone who's done nothing. Sorry. I needed to get that across. Couple good punches in round one, though. Fair play to him. He looked powerful, but... You got to be switched on. And he tried some Dillashaw thing, right? Which is actually interesting because he's been training with Dillashaw's team. Now, I don't know if he was just doing the conditioning like Chimaev was doing, or if he was working with the Bang Muay Thai thing. I think he's done Bang Muay Thai before, if I'm not mistaken, because he did a signature, and if you know, you know, he did a signature TJ Dillashaw offensive cage control movement. If you don't know, you just will never see this, but if you ever watch Dillashaw in his prime, that is peak Dillashaw. It's exactly the same footwork sequence that TJ did when he actually finished Garbrandt in their first fight. If you watch that fight again, watch how Dillashaw rearranges his feet to the outside angle and catches Garbrandt to put him away by KO and take some steam off of his hooks. Pico tried the same shit on Murphy, and Murphy went, I ain't throwing hooks with you there, I'll just fucking spin and elbow you. Bang! Flatlines Pico. Nasty KO win from Lerone Murphy. We move on. Dricus du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev. Incredibly impressive performance from Khamzat Chimaev. You can't deny it. I don't know about how many 10-8 rounds were given out, but first 3 rounds, I mean, there's nothing from Dricus. You know what I mean? So it's just Chimaev peppering away and staying on top position. So sure, he's not doing any damage to Dricus at all, but he's still winning the fight, and he's winning it dominantly. So 10-8 rounds, I'm okay with it for the first 3. Round 4 and 5, I don't think 10-8s, unless I'm mistaken maybe how long of a crucifix position there was early in the 4th. Maybe I could see some other argument, but I thought 3 10-8 rounds were good. 2 10-9s in the last round. I don't know if Dricus did enough to win any round. If there's an argument, it's the 5th, because he actually started to do good in the 5th round. He scrambled pretty well. He got to good positions. He threw Chimaev when they were in a 50-50 and ended up in mount, but then ended up sort of losing it to go for the back of Chimaev and look for the face crank. And I'm thinking, brother, pound with the ground and pound there. He even had a reversal attempt where he ended up on a guillotine and he pulled it to bottom position. So I've got 2 things to say. One, I was shockingly surprised by how Dricus's grappling was. I thought this would be a situation where he would have more of a switch attempt in him, or more of a 2-on-1 wrist control, shuck off maneuver. Like, there's certain slick things that he can add to his wrestling game that will benefit him when counter wrestling. It was actually all the things I was saying to him in the interview that we had together that he was going to do differently from the others. And Dricus was there saying, yeah. And we were talking about JDM against Bilal, where JDM was wrestling back and he was hitting a switch and he was throwing Bilal over his shoulder and then getting on the inside and getting his underhook. And Dricus just didn't do any of that. I feel like in the first round, though, Dricus did just take the round off. He said, I'm going to survive round 1. Okay, he got me down immediately. We're surviving this round. And that was his main focus. Round 2, I think the same thing, but he wanted a bit more time on the feet. But he wanted to just survive. Then it just became a thing where it's too late now, and Chimaev is wet blanketing you. I do want to say this, though. Other than Dricus' takedown defense, which needs improvement massively, get Craig Jones on the job, Dricus. I don't know where you got to go to find Craig Jones training, but you got the money for it now, brother. I'm telling you. It is a absolute factor in how these guys defend against these styles of opponents. Dricus, that should be your next mission. Wherever you've got to go in the world to get Craig Jones one-to-one training. You need the sneaky tricks of the trade. You need the sneaky tricks. You've got the base. You're strong. You have submission defense, but you need the sneaky, crafty moves that are going to get space between you and Chimaev. I will say this, though. Very impressive performance from Khamzat Chimaev. The most fucking dull thing I've ever seen in my life in a championship fight. Pathetic for a guy talking about kill everybody. I kill everybody, smash everybody. No. Nah, I'm good off that now. I ain't hyped for any of his fights anymore. Like, in the build-up, I'm not going to feel the same about a Chimaev build-up moving forward. And I know people say, it's one boring fight, but it's a boring fight, and I'm going to say that. Just how I raged about Yoel Romero versus Israel Adesanya. I'm allowed to find that boring. Oh, it's a striking match, so you're not You don't sound like a casual when you say a striking match was boring. So therefore, you're allowed to say a striking match is boring. Costa and Strickland struck with each other non-stop for 5 rounds. But that was boring, remember? Unanimously found boring by the MMA community. The second a grappling sequence starts, you have to find it the most entertaining thing in the world. And I fucking hate that about the sport. And I think it's going to kill the sport. Dead. Because now I'm considering Merab entertaining. Now I'm considering Bilal's title reign entertaining by comparison to what I just watched Chimaev do out there. It needs to be said. I'm not afraid to say it. There are a bunch of hardcores that will have a problem with me saying this. That was a boring, pathetic way of fighting. Now, du Plessis, his takedown defense, he should be ashamed of his takedown defense in that fight. It was weak shit. He had moments, but he needs to be fucking way better in the grappling. I completely understand that. Du Plessis had flaws. Chimaev had advantages, and he used it to win. Anytime this guy hits you on the face, you're diving at his hips. It's fucking gay and lame, and I don't care what anyone thinks about that. It's a fucking lame way of fighting. Straight up. I'm getting in trouble about this. Even DJ was saying something. It's mixed martial arts. Go watch boxing. Go and watch wrestling if you want to see just wrestling. I got that in my chat all the time. Go watch mixed martial arts. Tell Chimaev to mix it up then. And I will. This is wrestling. Mix it up. Push for dominance. Throw a fucking significant strike of ground and pound. I've given Chimaev his praise. Amazing wrestling. Amazing control. Amazing positional dominance. Throw a fucking significant strike of ground and pound before I lose my fucking mind. You have 23 minutes of control time in this fight. You didn't wind up once to cause pain to du Plessis. Not once. That's fucking pathetic. That's a bitch-ass way of fighting. Straight up, this is the world. The UFC is the ultimate fighting championship. It is a combat sport. It is a fucking cage fight. That's what it is. I don't mind if you're wrestling and you're getting subs, or you're wrestling and you're going for big TKOs, and that's what they do. I did not complain for a second about Arman Tsarukyan versus Mateusz Gamrot, nor would I. I did not complain for a second while Moicano was doing what he did to Benoit Saint-Denis in round 1. Not for a second. I was ecstatic. That was exciting shit. I want to speak to a lot of the hardcore fans. Don't feel pressure from losers online that make you feel like you're not a hardcore because you don't enjoy every part of this game. That was dull. It was weak. It was pathetic. It was lame. It was the least warriored fight I've ever seen in my entire life. Chimaev fought like a women's MMA fighter with a wrestling advantage. And he was less entertaining than them. He was less entertaining. At least they might mix it up on the feet a bit. I'm not saying, I should have mixed it up and then lost. Not saying that at all. Even if he wants to run this pure grappling game, brother, we're here again. We've been here for 2.5 minutes. We've been in this position where you have body lock on DDP and are kneeing his thigh for 2.5 minutes. And we're either there or we're in a crucifix, where, by the way, Chimaev probably could have finished, but he wouldn't wind up. He wouldn't generate space by lifting his shoulder and actually winging some shots of elbows and punches down there. A couple of times he did elbows and he went, brother, I might hurt him if I do this. And then he stopped. And went, oh God, Dricus nearly bucked out. I'll stop. I'll just lay here and do little baby punches. I can hear a little squeaky toy going off when he was hitting DDP. Bang! Bing! 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 Bang! Bang! I could hear it going off, a little horn. Bang! Bang! Anytime he hit du Plessis with a punch. Very impressive performance. No one's beaten this guy. Usman has a chance, but, I mean, it was a short notice fight for Chimaev as well, and he broke his fucking hand in the round 1 when he's got slammed. But Usman would have a really good chance. Some fighters would have a really good chance. I don't see any of them beating him. Enjoy. Enjoy. We've got a whole slew of this fan base. You really enjoyed Ankalaev beating Pereira, didn't you lot? You loving that championship reign. Full of headlines for Ankalaev. Enjoy. You enjoy that. That's what you get. That's what you get. That's your guy. I don't like that. I think that's lame. When I see Chimaev, finally they're on the feet and Duplessis lands a couple of shots. Shoots in, gets the hips. Duplessis stuffs it. Shoots in, gets the hips again. Oh, we're against the cage again and Chimaev's kneeing him in the thigh for 2 fucking minutes. That is pathetic. I said this on Twitter. There used to be a time where a UFC fight, I swear I could say this back in the day. If I had a UFC fighter with me, I would never lose a street fight or a bar fight. That used to be able to be said about any fighter on the fucking roster. If I'm in a street fight with Chimaev, I'm cooked. He's probably stalling some guy up against a wall, kneeing him to the thigh, trying to get one hook in on the back, while I'm getting wailed on by 4 drunk guys. He should be clearing him out. Not saying that he has to clear him out with KO power. But you know what I'm saying? It's a fight. Try and do damage to your opponent. I know I hear crucifix. Brother, he intentionally didn't finish from the crucifix because he didn't want to wind up with shots and that would create space for Duplessis to escape. You have to take risk to have real good performances in MMA. And that was a really good performance, but it wasn't entertaining. And I stand by that. It was a bullshit performance from him. And all this shit about I kill everybody, I take out everybody, all this smiling at the start of the fight. Brother, no one's fearing you. They don't feel no pain in the fight with you. Straight up. Last guy you couldn't wet blanket. Usman on 8 days notice, so he didn't have anything in him to do anything in round 2 and 3. Burns, you couldn't wet blanket, so you were forced into a fight with him. So if Chimaev isn't forced into something, he will just wet blanket you. And I think that's lame as fuck. And I'm allowed to say that. And you're allowed to say that as well. I know there's MMA fans out there that are like that. That being said, Duplessis' his takedown defense is shit, but it wasn't even the problem. Because I knew he was going to get taken down. It was his guard. Like, it was the side control. It was how quickly Chimaev went from taking him down to side control. That was the big problem in this match. Now, from there, Duplessis never let him really get mount. Or I think Duplessis had the game plan of don't let him get mount, don't let him get you back. Don't let him get mount, don't let him get you back. And in that process, he gave up too many other positions. And that's what led to Chimaev's victory. That being said, other than Chimaev getting reversed in rounds 4 and 5 for a second, and even in round 5 where Duplessis had a moment of success, Duplessis had the only submission attempt of the fight. Other than that, there was no exciting moments of this fight. Once you knew Chimaev wasn't going to load up in the crucifix, it was like, we're here again. He won't finish him here. He's not loading up. He's not trying to cause harm because he might lose position. Then we're back to side control. And then we're back to against the cage, getting kneed in the thigh. And that was it. That was it. And I find that really boring. I find that a pathetic way of fighting. There's nothing that can be done about it because this is the combat sport that we're in. This is within the rules of MMA. I think Godard, at the times that he did separate it, shouldn't have done, but there were other times that he could have done. Like, personally, when you're on a body lock, kneeing someone in the thigh against a cage, you're not doing anything there. If you've been doing that for a minute straight, fucking separate them. So I would agree with Godard there. I didn't agree with Godard when he stepped in to stand them up, but I would have liked a step in or two. Because if a guy's avoiding a combat sport and happy to stall for 3 minutes against the edge of the cage, kneeing someone in the thigh, you got to step in. It's against the rules. You have to progress and try and finish the fight. You can't stall positions. So it's actually, Godard is not going to be punished because he's within the rule book of MMA. It literally tells people you have to advance position. But Godard, I guess, was in the wrong in the time that he did it. In one of the times when Chimaev was on full guard on top, he was just doing little baby punches to look like he was staying busy and not doing any damage again. And they just let it back up, which they shouldn't have done. But yeah, that's that. And once they did let it back up, Duplessis would have some moments on the feet. But it was so horrible to watch because as a Duplessis fan, a massive Duplessis fan, what's not to love? KOs, scraps, wars, doing all it takes to win, going into the fire against opponents. But as a Duplessis fan, it was tough to watch because you saw him landing on the feet on Chimaev. Like he would land something good, like a kick would kind of land, and then he would go in with punches and crack Chimaev on the chin with a punch. But then Chimaev would just body lock, knees to the thigh, knees to the thigh. I mean, I'm being real, man. I'm trying to be unbiased here, but I don't have to find everything entertaining. You know, everyone's perfectly okay for me to find a striking match like very boring, and I find a lot of them boring. But when grappling's involved, all of a sudden you have to enjoy it or you're a casual. I hate that. I really hate that. I remember a time when Tyron Woodley was a champion having way more fun fights than what Chimaev just did with Du Plessis, and he got shunned out of the sport for it. And Dana was up there slandering him at a press conference. Now we got Dana giving this 50k bonus. You getting the message yet? These guys are lowering the standard of entertainment in the sport. So much so that these guys from that region are lowering the standard so much. Merab is an entertaining champ. Merab's a barn burner. Merab's a fucking scrapper. I issued an apology to Merab on Twitter today, saying, I'm sorry, I was wrong. You're actually entertaining. I hate that shit, man. I hate that way of fighting, and I think it's gay as fuck. I really think it is. I think it's a lame way of fighting. And next time Chimaev's yapping about I kill everybody at presser, brother, you're going to have to remind me of a different kind of performance next time, because I don't find that intimidating at all, and I don't find any hype for that whatsoever. There's no hype for that for me. I'm not hyped for that style of fighting. So we'll see. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I don't know what's going to happen next, but yeah, Du Plessis, man, just goofily bad in some of the scrambles that we're in, but hey, he's exhausted as well. That's the thing about this fight. People are going to talk about the cardio. I actually think the cardio training didn't actually improve Chimaev's cardio. I think it was just because he didn't have to scramble the way he had to do in earlier fights, right? With Usman and Whittaker even, and Burns and some of these other fighters, even though he didn't gas as much against Burns at all. But against Usman and Whittaker, even though we didn't see the results of the Whittaker one, he had to do so much work to keep them where they were at. Whereas against Du Plessis, he was right in side control, or he was right on the back. And Du Plessis wasn't hitting switches or Granby rolls like Kevin Holland and other guys. He was just sort of there. Muscled up Du Plessis. I'll try and fight hands again. Oh, never mind. I won't fight hands. Ugh. Oh, little baby punches hitting me in the face. Ah. Oh, that's kind of tickling. Ah. And then he tries to hit a switch. No. Okay, back here to get in my knees. My thighs need. Ugh. Ugh. And eventually, towards the end of it, he might get put in a crucifix. And that would be the highlight. Like, that's nothing to me, man. That's some bullshit. That's some fucking lame way of fighting. Pathetic way of fighting, in my opinion. Very impressive, though. But again, like, I need to go back retroactively and think, dude, you know what? Anthony Hernandez did mix it up together the way you're supposed to. You know? So this might have actually been good for me as an MMA fan to see. Because now I'm starting to appreciate fighters that really do mix it up. Because Hernandez was in full control of Dolidze if he wanted to be. But he was making sure to get shit off when he needed to. You know? Real submission attempts. Dragging him across the fucking cage with a rear naked. And, you know, Dolidze's submission defense is probably, if you were to argue on a, like, purely on-paper statistical who has better submission defense, you'd probably say Dolidze before these two fights. And still Hernandez was mixing it up on him. Knee to the body, separate, knee to the body on him against the cage. Drag him down again, big elbow, separate, knee to the body as he gets back up. That's a real fucking fighter that's mixing in the grappling. And I really didn't give him credit for that because I was salty over a wrong pick. But this Chimaev guy with this main event, brother, never again, please. That was the worst thing I've ever watched. And it was just lame. It was the crucifixes were fun, and I know that's what people are going to bring up, but it was everything in between that. It was like, dude, there's been 4 minutes of this round, or 3 minutes of this round, where it's just been Chimaev kneeing Dricus in the thigh. It's pathetic, my opinion. But very impressive wrestling from Chimaev. He's going to be very tough to beat, and he proved me wrong. He proved me wrong. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. I do think Du Plessis can make some adjustments and do better in a rematch, but I don't know if he would win it at all. And I think he needs to win a fight in the meantime. And if I was him, I'd look for RDR. A good win over RDR, right back in the mix. That's what I would do. See you later. Goodbye. Toodle pip.